Alright, this tutorial, this video is about Janus and Photoshop and how these two can work in a workflow. As of Janus 1.5 build 43, Janus has the ability to send render buffers and even test and render images to Photoshop. Now to do this, you have to set up Photoshop first, and this is how it's done. In the Janus support files, there is a JavaScript called Janus receive images, and this is on a per user basis, so there's no automatic way to do this. You just have to do this process. You have to go over to Photoshop. Okay, now with this thing here, I think it's best to put it in your support files. That's the important thing. You have to put this in your support files, which is the default anyway. So as long as it's there, you're good. Now all you have to do is you go to Photoshop. What you want to do is create a new action. So I'm going to go over to Actions, or go over to Window, Actions. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new action right over here. And I'll say this is my, let's say, Janus receive images. And I'm going to go start do a record. And when that is recording, I'll go over to File, go to Scripts, and go to Browse. And if I browse, I should be able to go and select the one I want. Now what I'm selecting is off frame. I'll bring it up, hold on. Okay, right now you'll see that this is where the file is, but you can't see anything, at least that's on CS3. If you're using CS5, you may see it, but in earlier versions you may not be able to. So what I do is do an asterisk or asterisk, and you'll see it here. I'll double click on that, and you can see that it's been properly recorded. I stopped the recording here. I have an action. I'm going to put this, or I'm going to make this into a droplet. Do a droplet. In fact, it's over here. With that selected, I go over to File. I'll go over to Automate, and I'll create a droplet. This basically creates a executable file. I'm going to create a droplet. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the same place where your support files will be. So I'm going to go over to, in fact, the same place, Janus support files, and I'm going to go and drop it down as jn_droplet. The name is important, so I'm going to go save that, and you're done. Actually, this is the dialog box, and I'm going to click OK. Make sure that the JN droplet is where it's supposed to be. So the folder ought to look like this. Once you've successfully configured Janus and Photoshop to communicate with each other, you can quickly start sending some test render images into Photoshop. In my scene right now, I have 4 passes that I've already rendered in a draft mode. I have and each one of these, except for the holdout mat, has a buffer export, and I've selected several, and later we'll go and export those buffers as well. But for the meantime, I'll go select everything and go over to test render and use this option, export like with RGB image output. Photoshop's been loaded. As you can see, the thing is off screen, but as you can see that the images are being loaded into a document. Let me drag that over here. And so this is the export. I can simply rearrange stuff to suit. As you can see over here, I have a mat. So what I'm going to do here is fill it up, invert, and probably going to and I need to put this with the foreground as my holdout, the foreground element. So I'm going to create a mask, copy paste that, paste it there, and I can delete that. So there's your comp, very quick and comp in Photoshop. Now if I go back to layout, I could go and select one of the tanks, for example, and I could go and preview some of the render buffers I've done with it. For example, if I go and select the render buffers, now what's happening here is that there is a delay because it's reading stuff from the scene file. So here we have the normals pass, and it's very very noisy because of its low res. And this is the diffuse shading. This is the ambient occlusion generated by the radiosity, and diffuse shading, specular shading. It's quite the same, kind of doubled up. Don't know why, but okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to send, for example, the foreground tank. I'm going to send some of the render buffers to Photoshop. So again, there will be delays when you're sending stuff out, because what it's doing is it's going back to the scene file, the test render scene file of that, and reading all the paths. So there will be a delay as those paths are retrieved. So that's the most dependable way actually of operating. So yep. Okay, so what we have here are a bunch of passes that have been loaded in. So what I'm going to do is disable some of those. Right now this is diffuse shade. Don't really want that. Let me look at the occlusion. So normals, and this is the occlusion pass, which I can put into as multiply, for example. I'll probably need to bring that downwards. Here, I'll probably group it together. Copy paste that over here. And delete this thing. Right. So anyway, of course you can do many things with it, but the idea is very simple. It's just bringing stuff in and out of Photoshop through the Janus interface. So that's basically some of the features. Quite simple, and I like to use this to preview some of my stuff, or I could actually do a full res test render here and tweak to a fine degree exactly the lighting, what to expect, and so it's quite useful. So hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for listening.